Of Mice and Men, Chapter 3. Although there was evening brightness showing through the windows of the bunkhouse, inside it was dusk. Through the open door came the thuds and occasional clangs of a horseshoe game, and now and then the sounds of voices rising approval or derision. Slim and George came into the darkening bunkhouse together. Slim reached up over the card table and turned on the tin-shaded electric light. Instantly the table was bright with light, and the cone of the shade threw its brightness straight downward, leaving the corners of the bunkhouse still in dusk. Slim sat down on the box, and George took his place opposite. It wasn't nothing. I would have had to drown most of them anyway. No need to thank me about that. George said, "It isn't much to you, maybe, but it's a hell of a lot to him. Jesus Christ, I don't know if we're going to get him to sleep in here. He'll want to sleep right out there in the barn with him. We'll have trouble keeping him from getting right in the box with them pups." It wasn't nothing," Slim repeated. "Say, you was right about him. Maybe he ain't bright, but I never seen such a worker. He damn near killed his partner bucking barley. There ain't nobody that can keep up with him. God almighty, I never seen such a strong guy." George spoke proudly. "Just tell Lenny what to do, and he'll do it, if it takes no figuring. He can't think of nothing to do himself, but he can sure take orders." There was a clang of a horseshoe on an iron stake outside, and a little cheer of voices. Slim moved back slightly so the light was not on his face. "Funny how you and him string along together." It was Slim's calm invitation to confidence. "What's funny about it?" George demanded defensively. "Oh, I don't know. Hardly none of the guys ever travel together. I hardly never seen two guys travel together. You know how the hands are. They just come in and they get their bunk and work a month, then they quit and go out alone. Never seem to give a damn about nobody. It just seems kind of funny, a cuckoo like him and a smart guy like you traveling together." "Well, he ain't no cuckoo," said George. "He's dumb as hell, but he ain't crazy. And I ain't so bright neither, or I wouldn't be bucking barley for my 50 in the found. If I was bright, if I was even a little bit smart, I'd have my own little place, and I'd be bringing up my own crops instead of doing all the work and not getting what comes up out of the ground." George felt silent. He wanted to talk. Slim neither encouraged nor discouraged him. He just sat back quiet and receptive. "It ain't so funny, him and me going round together," George said at last. "Him and me both born in Auburn. I known his Aunt Clara. She took him when he was a baby and raised him up. When his Aunt Clara died, Lenny just come along with me out working. Got kind of used to each other after a little while." Said Slim. George looked over at Slim and saw the calm, godlike eyes fastened on him. "Funny," said George. "I used to have a hell of a lot of fun with him. Used to play jokes on him, because he was dumb and would take care of himself. But he was too dumb to even know he had a joke played on him. I had fun. Made me seem goddamn smart alongside of him. Why, he'd do any damn thing I told him. If I told him to walk off a cliff, over he'd go. That wasn't so damn much fun after a while, though. He never got mad about it, neither. I'd beat the hell out of him, and he'd just bust every bone in my body with just his hands, but he'd never lay a finger against me." George's voice was taking on the tone of confession. "I tell you what made me stop that. One day, a bunch of guys was standing around the Sacramento River. I was feeling pretty smart. I turned to Lenny and says, 'Jump in!' And he jumps. Couldn't swim a stroke. Damn near drowned before we could get him out. And he was so damn nice to me for pulling him out. Clean forgot I had told him to jump in. Well, I ain't done nothing like that no more." "Well, he's a nice fella," said Slim. "I don't need no sense to be a nice fella." It seems to me sometimes it just works the other way around. It's a real smart guy, and he ain't hardly ever a nice fella. George stacked the scattered cards and began to lay out his solitaire hand. The shoes thudded in on the ground outside, and the windows of light of the evening made the squares dim. Made the window squares bright. I ain't got no people, George said. I've seen the guys that go around on the ranches alone. That ain't no good. They don't have no fun. After a long time, they get mean. They get wanting to fight all the time. Yeah, they get mean. They get so they don't talk to nobody. Of course, Lenny's a goddamn nuisance most of the time, said George. But you get used to going around with a guy when you can't get rid of him. Well, he ain't mean. I can see Lenny ain't a bit mean. Oh, cause he ain't mean. But he gets in trouble a lot of the time because he's so goddamn dumb. Like what happened in Wheat. He stopped in the middle of a turnover card. He looked alarmed and peered over at Slim. You won't tell nobody. What did he do in Weed? Slim asked calmly. You won't tell. No, of course you wouldn't. Well, what did he do in Weed? Slim asked again. Well, he seen this girl in the red dress. Dumb bastard like he is. He just wanted to touch everything that he likes. Just wants to feel it. So he reaches out to feel this red dress, and the girl lets out a squawk. And that gets Lenny all mixed up, and he holds on. That's the only thing that he can think to do. Well, this girl squawks, and I was a little bit off, and I heard all the yelling. So I come running, and by that time, Lenny's so scared that all he can think to do is just hold on. So I socked him over the head with a fence picket to make him let go. He was so scared he couldn't let go of that dress. And he's so goddamn strong, you know? Slim's eyes were level and unwinking. He nodded very slowly. So what happens? George carefully built his line of solitaire cards. Well, that girl rabbits and tells the law that she's been raped. The guys in Weed start a party out to lynch Lenny. So we sit in the irrigation ditch under water for the rest of the day. Got on your head sticking out from the side of the ditch. And that night we scrammed out of there. Slim sat in silence for a moment. Didn't hurt the girl none? Hell no. Just stared her. I'd be scared too if he grabbed me. He never hurt her. He just wanted to touch that red dress like he wants to pet them pups all the time. No, he ain't mean. I can tell a mean guy a mile off. Of course he ain't. He'll do any damn thing. Lenny came in through the door. He wore his blue denim coat over his shoulders like a cape, and he walked hunched way over. Hi, Lenny. How'd you like the pup now? Lenny said breathlessly. Hey, Brown, why? Just like I wanted. He went directly to his bunk and lay down and turned his face to the wall and drew up his knees. George put down his cards very deliberately. Lenny twisted his neck and looked over his shoulder. Huh? What do you want, George? I told you couldn't bring that pup in here. What pup, George? I ain't got no pup. George went quickly over to him, grabbed him by the shoulder and rolled him over. He reached down and picked the tiny puppy from where Lenny had been concealing it against his stomach. Lenny sat up quietly. Oh, give him to me, George. George said, you get right up there and take that pup back to the nest. He's got to sleep with his mother. You want to kill him? Just born last night and you take him out of the nest. You take him back or I'll tell Slim not to let you have him. Lenny held out his hands pleadingly. Oh, give him to me, George. I'll take him back. I didn't mean no harm, George. Honest, I didn't. I just wanted to pet him a little. George handed the pup back to him. All right. You get him back there quick. Don't you take him out no more. You'll kill him first thing you know. Lenny fairly scuttled out the room. Slim had not moved. His calm eyes followed Lenny out the door. Jesus, he's just like a kid, ain't he? Sure, he's just like a kid. There ain't no more harm in him than a kid neither, except he's so strong. I bet he won't come in here to sleep tonight. He'll sleep right alongside the bots in the barn. Well, let him. He ain't doing no harm out there. It was almost dark outside now. Old Candy, the swamper, came in and went to his bunk, and behind him struggled his old dog. Hello, Slim. Hello, George. Do neither of you play horseshoes? I don't like playing every night, said Slim. Candy went on. You guys got a slug of whiskey? I got 8. Well, I ain't. I'd drink it myself if I had one. And I ain't got a gut ache either. Got a bad gut ache, said Candy. Them goddamn turnips giving me. I knew they was going to before I even ate them. The thick-bodied Carlson came in out of the darkness and turned the second shaded light. Darker than hell in here, he said. Jesus, how that can pitch shoes. Yeah, he's damn good, said Slim. Damn right he is. You give nobody else a chance to win. He stopped and sniffed the air. Oh, God almighty, that dog stinks. Get him out of here, Candy. I don't know nothing that stinks half as bad as an old dog. You gotta get him out. Candy rolled to the edge of his bunk. He reached over and patted the ancient dog, and he apologized. I've been around him so much, I never even noticed he stinks. Well, I can't stand him in here, said Carlson. That stink hangs around even after he's gone. He walked over with his heavy-legged stride and looked down at the dog. Got no teeth. He's all stiff with rheumatism. He ain't any good to you, Candy, and he ain't no good to himself. Why don't you shoot him, Candy? The old man squirmed uncomfortably. Oh, well, hell. I had him so long. I had him since he was a pup. I herded sheep with him. You wouldn't look at him now, but he was the best damn sheepdog I ever seen. George said, I seen a guy in Weed that had an Airedale, could herd sheep. Learned it from the other dogs. Carlson was not to be put off. Look, Candy, this old dog just suffers himself all the time. If you was to take him out and shoot him right in the back of the head, he leaned and pointed, right there, why, he'd never know what hit him. Candy looked about unhappily. No, I couldn't do that. I've had him too long. Well, you don't have no fun. And he stinks to beat hell. Tell me what, I'll shoot him for you. Then it wouldn't be you that does it. Candy threw his legs off his bunk. He scratched the white stubble whiskers in his cheek nervously. I'm so used to him. I had him since he was a pup. Well, you ain't been kind to him keeping him alive. Look, Slim's bitch got a litter right now. I bet Slim would give you one of them pups to raise up, wouldn't you, Slim? The Skinner had been studying the old dog with his calm eyes. Yeah, you can have a pup if you want to. He seemed to shake himself free from speech. Carl's right, Candy. That dog ain't no good to himself. I wish somebody'd shoot me if I got old and a cripple. Candy looked helplessly at him, for Slim's opinions were law. Maybe it would hurt him. I don't mind taking care of him. Carlson said, the way I'd shoot him, he wouldn't feel nothing. Put the gun right here, pointing with his toe. Right in the back of the head, he wouldn't even quiver. Candy looked for help from face to face. It was quite dark outside by now. A young laboring man came in. His sloping shoulders were bent forward, and he walked heavily on his heels, as though he carried an invisible grain bag. He went to his bunk and put his hat on the shelf, then he picked up a pulp magazine from his shelf and brought it over to the light of the table. Did I show you this, Slim? He asked. Show me what? The young man turned to the back of the magazine, put it down on the table, and pointed with his finger. Right here, read that. Slim bent over it. Go on, said the young man. Read it aloud. Dear editor, I read your magazine for 6 years, and I think it's the best on the market. I like stories by Peter Rand. I think he's a winged-in. It was more like the Dark Rider. All right, many letters. I just thought I would tell you I think your mag is the best dime's worth I ever spent. Now, what'd you want me to read that for? Go on, Read the name at the bottom. Yours for success, William Tenner. So what did you want me to read that for? Whit closed the magazine impressively. Don't you remember Bill Turner? Worked here about 3 months ago? Huh. Little guy. Drove a cultivator? That's him. That's the guy. You think he's the guy that wrote this letter? Oh, I know it. Bill and me was in here one day. Bill had one of them books and just come. He was looking in and says, I wrote a letter. Wonder if they'll put it in the book. But it wasn't there. Bill says, maybe they're saving it for later. And that's just what they done. There it is. Huh. Guess you're right. Got it right in the book. George held out his hand for the magazine. Hey, let's look at it. Whit found the piece again, and he did not surrender his hold on it. He pointed out the letter with his forefinger, and he went to his box shelf and laid the magazine carefully in. I wonder if Bill's seen it, said. Bill and me worked in this patch of field peas. Ran cultivators, both of us. Bill was a hell of a nice fella. During the conversation, Carlson had refused to be drawn in. He continued to look down at the old dog. Candy watched him uneasily. At last, Carlson said, If right now, if you want me to, I'll put the old devil out of his misery right now and get it over with. Ain't nobody and nothing left for him. Can't eat. Can't see. Can't even walk without hurting. Candy said hopefully, you ain't got no gun. The hell I don't. Got a Luger. Won't hurt him none at all. Oh, maybe tomorrow. Let's just wait till tomorrow. I don't see no reason for it, said Carlson. He went to his bunk, pulled his badge from underneath it, and took out a Luger pistol. Let's get it over with. We can't sleep with him stinking around in here. He put the pistol in his hip pocket. Candy looked a long time at Slim to try to find some reversal, and Slim gave him none. At last, Candy said softly and hopelessly, All right, take him. He did not look down at the dog at all. He lay back on his bunk and crossed his arms behind his head and stared at the ceiling. From his pocket, Carlson took a lawn feather thong. It's a knot, essentially, to put around the dog's neck so that way he can fashion a collar and a leash. He stooped over and tied it around the old dog's neck. All the men except Candy watched him. Come on, boy. Come on, boy, he said gently. Then he said apologetically to Candy, You won't even feel it. Candy did not move nor answer him. He twitched the thong. Come on, boy. The old dog got slowly and stiffly to his feet and followed the gently pulling leash. Slim said, Carlson? Yeah? You know what to do. What do you mean, Slim? Take a shovel, said Slim shortly. Oh, sure, I get you. He led the dog out into the darkness. George followed to the door and shut the door and set the latch in its place. Candy lay rigidly on his bed, staring at the ceiling. One of my lead mules got a bad hoof. Got some tar on it. His voice trailed off. It was silent outside. Carlson's footsteps died away. The silence came back into the room, and the silence lasted. George chuckled. I bet Lenny's right out there in the barn with his pup. You don't even want to come in here no more now that he's got a pup. Candy, you have any one of the pups you want. Candy did not answer. The silence fell in the room again. It came out of the night and invaded the room. Anybody want to play a little euchre? I'll play with you, said Whit. They took places opposite each other at the table under the light, but George did not shuffle the cards. He rippled the edges of the deck nervously, and a little snapping noise drew all the eyes of the men in the room, so he stopped doing it. Silence fell in the room again. A minute passed, and another minute. Candy lay still, staring at the ceiling. Slim gazed at him for a moment, then looked down at his hands. He subdued one hand with the other and held it down. There came a little gnawing sound from under the floor, and all the men looked down toward it gratefully. Only Candy continued to stare at the ceiling. Sounds like there's a rat under there, said George. We ought to get a trap down there. Whip broke out. Oh, what the hell's taking them so long? Lay out some cards, why don't you? We ain't gonna get no euchre played this way. The cards together tightly and studied the backs of them. The silence was in the room again. A shot sounded in the distance. The men looked quickly at the old man. Every head turned towards him. For a moment he continued to stare at the ceiling. Then he rolled slowly over and faced the wall and lay silent.